Is it football or is it soccer? Let's figure it out.
Why is football called soccer in North America? Or why is soccer called football literally everywhere else? It's a topic of contention in large parts of the world. Why do Americans, well, Canadians, Aussies, and Americans call it soccer and not football? The answer? Well, the word soccer is actually British. And the Brits still call it soccer sometimes. Yes, the Brits still call it soccer sometimes. Take these for an example. But hold up, let's start from the beginning. No, I mean the real beginning. Soccer, football, dates back to the Chinese military in the 2nd and 3rd century. If you think about it, football is a basic concept. Find something to kick and kick it towards something else. Seems pretty simple, actually. The Chinese used balls filled with hair and feathers, which is pretty different than this. In medieval times, it was rejuvenated, and in the early 1800s, the sport became a big deal in England, specifically in their prestigious universities. But variations of the sport were happening across the country, so they set up different organizations to control the rules. One version used hands as well, which they differentiated by calling rugby football, which became ruggers, and now rugby. What we call soccer, football, was called association football, which, take a look at this, right here. This led them to, or some of them, shortening it to soccer, but many of them kept the abbreviation football. And this is where it gets a bit confusing. In the US in the late 18th and early 19th century, they also started playing a version of what, more or less, was what the British called rugby football. But it was different. So they ended up calling it football. And the imported association football was shortened to soccer. Manchester United dates back to 1878. In 1902 under the name Manchester United FC. Liverpool, 1892. FC Barcelona, 1899. LA Galaxy, 1994. Toronto FC, 2008. But football, soccer, actually was massive in North America. And I mean massive. The North America Soccer League, aka NASL, existed from 1967 until 1985, although it was only really taken seriously in the late 1970s and early 1980s, until its theatrical collapse. And that really halted soccer in North America for years, until, of course, the 1994 World Cup and the beginning of the MLS. The NASL was huge. Here is some footage of Pelé joining the New York Cosmos in the 1970s. For most of the superstars, it was the end of their careers and a good payday. The soccer, though, wasn't always great, but it was a cultural phenomenon, and people in North America were wild about it. Now, here's a fun fact. The British actually referred to football as soccer about half the time until the late 1970s, when the NASL started popularizing the sport in the US and Canada. It annoyed the Brits, though. So, to differentiate themselves from the Americans, they made a conscious effort to not use it. But there are still some remnants of it today. Sky Sports' big Saturday show is called, still, Soccer Saturday. So, perhaps when the British chirp Americans and Canadians and Aussies, they actually should blame themselves. And here is some more awesome footage of soccer, aka football, from the past. What do you call it? I call it soccer, unless of course there are British or European people around and I
Want to sound smart?